we've got you covered all season long. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast.
All right, here it is. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast. Indeed, Season 2, Episode 33, presented to you, of course, none other than Buffalo Wild Wings.
Let's go, sports bar.
I'm Brandon Carnes here, of course, with Justin Feldkamp, and you know it's a baseball episode because we've got Adam Furness over here at the desk as well. Guys, we're about halfway into the baseball season here, right at the midpoint. I want to know if there's a team in the area that is really impressed the heck out of you, or if they are who we thought they were kind of moment. Adam, you're the guest. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I think you have to start with Clay here. Yeah. Kind of lean to the NLL right now. We talked about it last episode. When you have guys like 1-2 punch like Vinny Gallagher, CJ Boudreau, having those two key pitchers that they do have, being able to kind of rely on those guys, I think allows them to kind of have the record they're having right now and really push for a deep postseason run as well.
Justin?
I'll give you two more, not necessarily surprises, but who we thought they were. Whiteford, they had one loss coming in, and they lost to Ottawa Hills. That game was in extra innings, and a bases loaded hit by pitch allowed the winning run to score for the Green Bears. But Whiteford expected to go on a deep tournament run in Michigan. And then Northview, last check with an 11-2 record. There are two losses to Clay and Defiance. Adam just mentioned Clay, and then Defiance, a perennial power, no matter what season you're talking about.
Here in a minute.
So I think with Northview and what they've been able to do, not only pitching-wise, we've talked about that a number of times on the podcast, but offensively, they got a top-to-bottom type of lineup where anybody can contribute.
I think my pick is going to be Lake. The Lake Flyers, 15-2 to start the season off. They've got three different pitchers that have an under 1 ERA with a combined over 50 innings pitched. So when you're pitching that well, you're bound to win a bunch of games. Coming up today on the rest of the podcast, obviously we've got our clip of the week by Renewal by Anderson. We'll catch you up to date on everything that's happened in baseball since our last episode. And of course, our game of the week, so much more to hold on for. Make sure you're here every single Wednesday, 4 p.m. for brand new episodes of the BCSN Nation podcast. And of course, anywhere you get your podcast, if you want the audio format, Apple, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you're going to go, we're there at BCSN Sports on all social medias as well. Hit that follow button, TikTok, YouTube, Amazon. No, go there for your podcast. Don't go there for your social media. They're not going to help you there. But just stay right here, all right? Before I get myself caught in a tizzy, we're going to talk about some state rankings, all right? State rankings have come out for Week 5. We've also got some Bruce Johnson rankings. We've got Division I Clay. They're up to number 11 from 14 last week. Northview, they're at 12, up all the way from 19. Anthony Wayne, we're 16th. They drop out. Whitmer in the 20 spot now. Perrysburg also getting votes. That's D1. Defiance, you just mentioned them. They're number 7 in Division II. And then Division III, the Lake Flyers that I just mentioned, they were 7th. They're up to 5th. Eastwood falls from 3 to 11, but Ottawa Hills, they're down 1 spot, 18 from 17. So a lot of teams in the area in those state rankings moving up, moving down.
Yeah, it's good to see representation from Northwest Ohio. You see the teams at the top from Cincinnati area, Columbus area, Springboro, another Columbus area. So I think but with the time we get to regionals, I think Northwest Ohio will be well represented and then have the ability to take on those teams from the 3 Cs and be able to compete. And we've seen teams in recent years. Northview won a state title all the way, took it on a great tournament run with a killer 1-2 punch on the pitching mound, and then got that state title. So I think that this team, these teams in our area that we've been talking about, the Clays and the Northviews, the Anthony Waynes, have a shot to go on some tournament runs, just like Ottawa Hills, I think, some just outside the BCSN viewing area, the Liberty Bentons, the Lakes that you mentioned, Eastwood as well. So a number of area teams, I think, worked their way up into those rankings.
Yeah, 𝗦𝗫𝗍, another team that's been in the rankings. Yep. They've slid out recently, but we've got Bruce Johnson, comes on Sports Nightly every single week, Baseball with Bruce. His rankings sit 1 Clay, 2 Northview, 3 Whitmer, 4 Eastwood, 5 A-Dub. Then you got Defiance, Lake, Findlay, 𝗦𝗫𝗍, O-Hills. What do you make of that list? Is there a team that slide them up, slide them down? What do you think?
Yeah, when looking at Bruce's rankings, obviously I mentioned Clay earlier.
Right.
I do think they are the number 1 team in this area. Northview right behind them. Whitmer is one of those teams that is a little bit of a surprise to me this year.
Yeah.
New first-year head coach, Mark Rabbit, longtime assistant. He mentioned that their team cares about winning. When you have a lot of guys who are unselfish mixed in there with a little bit of some talent, you have a real opportunity to make something special happen. So I like seeing Whitmer up there. I think they're doing a great job this year, and they're off to a great start.
Yeah, there's been some shakeups, and that'll update, I'm sure, with Bruce's tomorrow night over on Sports Nightly. But Ottawa Hills, they beat Whitmer last week. They're in that 10 spot in his rankings, so maybe we see them slide up. Anthony Wayne, they beat Whitmer last night, so they're beating teams above them in the rankings. Lake and Otsego were supposed to play Monday. That got rained out, so that'll get shifted, hopefully play back in later this season. Findlay, they're in the rankings. They've beaten Anthony Wayne as well. So we've got a lot of these teams, especially in the NLL, right? They're beating each other up, that attrition throughout the season. But as we talked about in other sports, that's really a postseason push for these teams as they move forward.
Yeah, I'm curious with Whitmer. I know we talked about them as kind of a surprise team and an up-and-coming team. I want to see what they do the second half of the season. Mm-hmm. You know, after you get some film on them, you get to see, okay, what's this guy's pitching repertoire, and how do they compete in the Buckeye and in the Cardinal in those divisions against those teams in the second half of the season after, okay, now we're not going to take Whitmer lightly anymore. Maybe in recent years prior to this one, we could throw a number 2 or number 3 pitcher,
right,
or maybe slide in some reserves at some starting spots to give them some opportunities. But, okay, now we got to take Whitmer seriously. Here's the A team coming on. How does Whitmer do in that scenario, second half of the season?
We'll talk a little bit more about Whitmer as we slide through the show. But for now, like we've done every single week here on BCSN and the BCSN Nation podcast as well, talking about one of our top 20 athletes of the last 20 years, the female side this week. We're going to the soccer pitch. Taylor Leach from Anthony Wayne, an absolute animal on the pitch for Anthony Wayne and even throughout college professional ranks, a 2-time all-district player at A-Dub, a 3-time first-team all-league, and then with her club team, a 2-time state champion. Headed to South Carolina after that, 5 years, not just getting it done on the pitch, getting it done in the classroom, 5 times academic SEC honor roll, 86 games played for the Gamecocks, almost 6,000 career minutes for Taylor Leach. An incredible career there. Slid over professionally, played in Sweden for a number of years, and then in the NWSL for the Utah Royals and KC Current. Justin, you got to talk to Taylor.
Yeah, she was a part of an Inside Out episode in April, and she was terrific. She's currently in charge of player development at Pacesetter Soccer Club, their indoor-outdoor organization here in Northwest Ohio. And I tell you what, I mean, she really cares about the community. She was gone out of Northwest Ohio to South Carolina to Sweden to Utah to Kansas City. So she told me that she's been gone for 13 years. She wanted to come back. She wanted to give back and develop soccer even more in Northwest Ohio, and she's doing just that. But yeah, she's been a winner wherever she goes. When she was at South Carolina, they had never advanced far in the NCAA tournament. Taylor's senior year, that team reached the quarterfinals. When she departed, the program continued, got to the Final Four for the first time. She's won a Champions League title in Sweden, and then played well at the NWSL. And I asked her, hey, can you tick off some of the players that you've gone against or played with? And she named off quite a few from the U.S. women's national team. So she challenged herself against the best, and she performed well. She talked about her favorite goal that she's had in her career, which was a nice little story. But yeah, the catch 3 years of the Inside Out episode, but definitely very deserving. Not too many professional soccer players in recent years, in the last 20 years, have gotten all the way that far to that level from our area, and she's one of them, and definitely deserving of being on our list.
All right, Adam, real quick, what stood out to me there, 5 times SEC All-Academic Honor Roll. You, at this table, very uniquely qualified to talk about participating in college sports and college in the classroom. How impressive is that to be 5 times?
That's very impressive. It's really important when you are playing a college sport that you kind of take care of both. I found in my career that when I was right in the classroom, I was right on the field. And when you're taking care of stuff in the classroom, getting good grades, you can kind of get that out of your mind and be able to focus on sports when you're actually on the diamond or on the pitch, stuff like that. So super important, very impressive career for her. And it's awesome to see someone that moved up in the professional ranks, kind of did everything that she did, is now back and loves her community, is coming back and giving back.
All right, Taylor Leach, one of our top 20 female athletes of the BCSN era. All that coverage brought to you by First Solar. But this podcast is brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. We're going to let them talk to you for 30 seconds about why you should go put some wings in your belly.
Buffalo Wild Wings, buy one, get one free. Boneless Thursdays saved me so much cash. I can finally do everything I've ever wanted in life, like skydiving. You ready? No, this was a mistake, a huge mistake. I want to go back. Go, go, go! Yeah, I'll probably just use the money I saved to get more buy one, get one free boneless wings at B-Dubs. No brainer. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
All right, no skydiving on the baseball diamond, but I'm sure the Panthers wanted to pull the parachute last week against St. Francis. Things got out of hand early when they took on the Knights. 14-0 the final score, just 6 innings played. But St. Francis struck early, up 3-0 after the first, kept tallying on runs, and really just felt like nothing could go right for the Whitmer Panthers last week in that matchup.
Yeah, it's kind of like an avalanche. You can't stop an avalanche, and sometimes that's baseball, and it gets out of hand quickly, and you lose the spirit to compete, and that's the challenge that each and every coach and each and every player battles, whether you're talking about 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds or high school varsity baseball like we're talking now, and honestly, even into college and into the pros. And I think St. Francis is getting a little slight separation from the other two Catholic school teams in St. John's and Central Catholic thus far. Still plenty of baseball to play here in the month of May to maybe change my mind. But from what I've seen overall, as far as an entire roster, pitching, hitting, defense, I think that they've separated themselves just a little bit. But with Cooper Longinus hitting .345, Derek Zazzini, Manna Bublik on the mound, I think that the St. Francis is primed for a decent tournament run, and we've seen surprises happen in the postseason. But with Whitmer, I think they just let this one get out of hand, and then the body language that you see in a game like this, you got to use it as a learning lesson if you're a coach. And both of the coaches that you'll mention here in a second address that concern. Yeah. But the positive sides of Whitmer, I've seen Brody Longinus hitting .450, Connor Westray .421. So they're definitely bright spots and room for improvement for Whitmer, despite a 14-0 loss, a final in 6 innings.
Yeah, and it wasn't just St. Francis offense, right? Colin Hennessy was dealing. Kid had 5 innings pitched, 9 Ks, didn't give up a hit until the 4th inning. Oh, by the way, his dad, professional pitcher. All right, Brad Hennessy for the San Francisco Giants. So pretty good mentor to look up to. But yeah, you mentioned it. I talked to assistant coach Matt LaPointe afterwards, and he just said, we just didn't play like ourselves. We watched a lot of strikeouts, those 9 strikeouts. I watched 5 or 6 of them that were just looking. So they weren't really putting the bat into play. And you and I talked about it before we started rolling this podcast that you got to put the bat in there. You can't just let pitches come through.
Yeah, when Justin mentioned this, baseball is such a game of momentum on both sides of the ball. You got a pitcher like that that's coming out, filling up the zone. When you're Whitmer there, you just try to get anything to happen, make some plays, get balls in play and run the base as well, stuff like that. So I think they kind of just let this one get out of hand a little bit. I look for them to kind of, baseball is one of those things where we're in the second half of the season now. You need to be playing your best at the right time. Right. And a 14-0 loss to St. Francis in the middle of the year isn't necessarily going to hurt you in the long run. So that's one of those situations where you learn from it, move on, and start playing your best baseball at the right time.
Yeah, and we were talking about the Catholic school leagues tonight, Wednesday night and Thursday nights. We're going to see that played out quite a bit because we got St. Francis taking on St. John's on Wednesday night and then St. John's taking on Central Catholic on Thursday.
Yeah, so plenty of matchups for those guys to kind of decide where they're going to stand, obviously up in the Detroit Catholic League as well. But for Whitmer, I don't think they didn't have their number 1 guys on the mound, their number 2 guys on the mound. They threw Jacob Dillon, who's his first start of the season. They threw in Connor Westray, Mason Huston, and Elijah McGee, guys that don't have a lot of innings pitched. Bruce Johnson on the broadcast talked about looking like Coach Rabbit. I almost called him Mr. Rabbit. He was my teacher for a long time. All right, it's tough to shake that. Was getting innings for guys that maybe need them later in the season. So a smart move, but it felt like that kind of helped the snowball for St. Francis to really keep tallying things on in that game.
Yeah, and that's a coaching strategy. You got to you can't just think in the here and now, what's going to transpire over the next 2 hours. You got to say, what's the next 2 weeks look like? What's the next 2 months look like in some cases? So you don't pitch your number 1 or number 2, knowing that, just like Adam was saying, okay, let's save some throws and some pitches from those guys because we'll need them on May 15th or May 28th type of thing. So you got to be smart, and you can't just rely on 2 or 3 pitchers the entire 20-plus game season.
So we'll see how things continue to shake out for both of those teams. But I can tell you where we're going right now, and that's to our clip of the week from Renewal by Anderson. All right, taking you back to last week, hitting a different kind of pitch, some lacrosse action. Reese Hill from Ottawa Hills last week hit his 200th career goal in this 10-5 win over St. John's. 200 career goals, a crazy number, 14 off at that point from the OHSAA career record, which is 214. He's put on a few more since. He's at 209 for his career. I found a stat from Blade article. He had 96 goals last season to get him to where he is now. That is a stupid number, 96 goals in a season for Reese Hill.
Yeah, he is a product of a great program.
Yes.
So where smart coaches put him in situations where he has the ability to go score. You see Greg Neuendorf putting the demarcation of 200 on that game ball. So hats off to Reese Little. He's approaching that OHSA state record, which would be phenomenal. But I tell you what, crafty, some of those goal scorers on the lacrosse field just find a way. You know, there's lots of different ways to score in lacrosse, and with that lethal lefty swing, the short stick there, I mean, he finds a way to look. He's got one-on-one right there, just beats the guy. Another guy comes, eludes him, goes to the left, and then just rips it by the goalie.
And good for Hill. He didn't have to wait one more game, right? You see this clock at the bottom, only 7 seconds left when he put that goal in. Been a real bummer to have to wait to hit 200 until the next
sit
game.
on 199.
Sit on 199. We talked about in the basketball season, coach was worried about sitting at 599, right? So similar situation. Gets that. He scored 4 more or 5 more in the next game over the weekend. He's at 209, like I mentioned, just 5 off from the OHSAA career record. Shout out Reese Hill, our Renewal by Anderson clip of the week. If you want more clips just like this one, head over to our TikTok at BCSN Sports, or if you just want to see more of this one, that'll be up there later today as well. I didn't want to spoil it before you guys got to see it on the podcast. Help us get to 10,000 followers over there. That's at BCSN Sports over on TikTok. And there's not just great plays happening on the cross field. We had some great performances on the mound last week for baseball. 2 no-hitters, more no-hitters than there were hits in the games. Caden Granger from Cardinal Stritch and Vinny Gallagher from Clay High School, both no-hitters last weekend. Granger 12 Ks in a 10-0 win over Toledo Christian, who at the time was unbeaten in the TAC, having a great season. He's a Lord's commit. Vinny Gallagher over at Clay. I shudder to even say 9 innings for Gallagher, 99 pitches and 10 Ks in that win. Not a lot of guys throwing 9 innings on the high school level at him.
No, there isn't. And the thing that's impressive there too is the 99 pitches. I mean, only averaging about 11 pitches an inning is pretty incredible. We talked about Clay and those 1-2 punch they have there on the mound, and Vinny, obviously UC has an incredible year so far.
Yeah, and obviously Caden Granger, right? Cardinal Stritch having a pretty good season. And when you have a guy going out and dealing like that, it really helps you roll through, especially their TAC schedule.
Yeah, I'm going to like to see what Caden Granger can do in the latter stages of this season and see him if they are able to go on a postseason run. We talked about how they won 20 games last year. So aspirations for even more wins in a deeper tournament run this time around. And when you got a guy who can throw a full-blown no-hitter and throwing 81-plus miles an hour fastball, and then on the other side with Clay's Vinny Gallagher, 80 to 89 mile an hour fastball, future Eastern Michigan Eagle there. But yeah, the craftiness and so much of you know more about this than I do, Adam, with the velo, velocity, with the spin rates at the college level and at the professional level. There's so many sabermetrics and different data points, and it's all about throw hard, throw hard, throw hard. You can still be crafty. You can still be efficient. You can still hit your spots. You don't have to have a 94 mile an hour fastball. You can paint the outside corners. You can fake batters out with a great off-speed pitch or a curveball. And do the simple math, 99 divided by 9 innings, that's 11 pitches an inning. That is phenomenal efficiency. Yes. And yes, 80 to 89 is pretty fast for a high school level pitcher. That's why he's going to go play in the Mid-American Conference next season. But it's not as if he has overwhelming velocity where, okay, I need an out, I have to throw the fastball type of deal. You can change it up, mix the speeds. I love Greg Maddux, one of my all-time favorite pitchers, longtime Atlanta Brave, Chicago Cub at the MLB level, Hall of Famer, did not have overpowering stuff, just crafty. You play a game of chess with a batter as opposed to here's smoke, here's gas. I love how he changed it up.
Now, your pitcher is dealing like both of these guys were last week, Adam. What is going through your head as a defensive player or at the plate as a base? You know, like what's going through your head as your pitcher's dealing like this?
Yeah, I think making sure that you just keep the game comfortable. You have the cliche of make sure nobody mentions it to them and stuff like that. So I think just making sure, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you're sticking to your fundamentals, you're making your plays, you're making the routine plays, just helping any way you can. I threw a no-hitter against Napoleon my junior year. So
it was against Napoleon the Gallagher threw too. So. Yeah,
pile on Napoleon here, but on the mound at that point too, you're just making sure you're making your pitches, executing, sticking to your fundamentals and your wind up and stuff like that. So it's definitely a little bit of nerve-wracking feeling, but it's fun once it's all said and done.
All right, shout out to both those pitchers for their no-hitters. Now, a couple weeks ago, we talked about the preview of the City League. Start has been on an absolute tear on the baseball side of things. We thought 𝗏𝗏𝗏 might be the team to challenge them this year. So far, 7-5. They're going to take on Rogers tonight. They're pushing for that City League title. A tough loss to start last week, but they do get a rematch next Monday with them. What's helping 𝗏𝗏𝗏 get to this push? I know you talked to Coach.
Yeah, Rogers at 𝗏𝗏𝗏 on the BCSN app on Wednesday night, so tune in for that. And then talking to Coach Ken Baum for 𝗏𝗏𝗏, he told me that there's, based on what he said, there's plenty of room for improvement. They've given up 34 unearned runs thus far throughout the season. Throwing errors. They're fielding the ball cleanly, just the throwing errors is just killing them. And then the last two games, they've lost to Start and lost to Lima Senior. They left 13 runners in scoring position. So finding a way to get those runners around into home plate is a key for them. And then that loss to Lima Senior, as we talk about the contention for a City League title, that loss to Lima Senior for 𝗏𝗏𝗏, kind of putting them behind the 8 ball. Coach Ken Baum tells me, based on how he thinks the season could play out, they're going to have to go on the road for the City League semifinals to face Lima Senior again on May 20th. So they still got some things to work with and work towards, but they do have Kyle Schropp. I think he's a City League Player of the Year contender, maybe
Absolutely.
a front runner. 17 for 35. He's hitting .486. He has 18 runs, 20 RBIs, and 12 stolen bases. That's a pretty darn good stat line. And then backing him up there, Roy McCrandle, 346. He also has 9 for 26, 11 runs, 12 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. So Kyle and Roy, two of the top 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Blue Racers. And then Carter Wise on the mound, and then Schropp is also pitching as well. Both sub-4 ERAs, and Carter Wise has a 1.18 ERA. But I like what 𝗏𝗏𝗏 has been able to do. They just got to be a little bit more consistent. And then defense and pitching, you can talk about hitting stats all you want, but defense and pitching is going to win you those games when it's 5-4 in the 6th inning and you need to hold on to the lead, or you need the bullpen to come in and keep it where it is and then maybe get some magic in the final innings at bats to take a lead and win a game maybe you're not supposed to, type of deal. But 𝗏𝗏𝗏 still in contention, but work to do.
Right, they're in contention, right? But they can control their own destiny. The rematch with Start next week. How do you adjust from a 10-3 loss to, all right, we're playing this team again, what do we fix, and go from there?
With 𝗏𝗏𝗏, Justin just mentioned it, those errors definitely do hurt. Baseball's such a game where the little things matter so much. And getting those 2-out base hits with runners on, or making those plays when they really matter, can really start to add up. So with them, I would just go back to sticking to, who they are. They've played baseball for 15 to 18 years or however long they've played, and they know how to make those plays. They know they can do it. So that's kind of what I would focus on with them.
All right, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Rogers tonight on the BCSN app. Our game of the week, though, brought to you by Dunn Chevy in Oregon. I'll let you know when that's going to be right after this. Dunn Chevy in Oregon, Clay, and Findlay at Fifth Third Field tomorrow night, 7 p.m. on the BCSN app. Catch it on tape, delay as well. A lot of fun playing at Fifth Third Field for these high school guys. Findlay 8-9 on the season. Clay 14-1. They're on a 12-game tear right now. I don't want to bring up the game Monday or last night to you, but they did beat BJ a combined 24-6 in the last two meetings. Did Clay? Not a great day to be a Bobcat in those matchups, but Clay is on an absolute tear. You've talked about him a couple times already.
Yeah, they are. I can't say much more about Clay Eagles this year.
Right.
I believe they did go with Vinny and CJ on the mound Monday and Tuesday, so it will be interesting who they come out with Thursday, kind of see the arm that they've got, and kind of their third option, especially when it comes to making a deep postseason run. But yeah, with Clay, they're clicking on all cylinders. They've got Noah Schott, who's hitting .455, 4 stolen bases. He drove in a bunch against Bowling Green in those 2 games that they did play. So they're kind of clicking on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, well, I talked to Coach Jim Phillips, and he told me likely Landon Eversman would be pitching for Clay. So yeah, you're correct. CJ and Vinny did pitch in those key games against BG. But hats off to Luke Jeremy, 2 home runs on Tuesday nights. High schooler going deep twice.
And that's a guy in your 9 slot.
Correct. And they had won now 12 straight games. Brock Fussell, it was 3 for 3 with 4 RBIs in the earlier game against BG. But I mean, when you got 2 stud pitchers and you got a 9-hitter going deep twice, and then you got middle of the order guys who are future Mid-American Conference players, I mean, you got a pretty stout roster. But this is a great opportunity for both teams to play on a professional field where the Mud Hens play. And Coach Jordan Nell, in his first year with Findlay, they were unable to go on a spring break trip, so trying to create memorable experiences, especially for the senior class. The Fifth Third Field, kind enough to open up the gates to some high school teams if they so choose. So this is one of those experiences for them. But with Jordan Nell, I reached out to him in preparation for the podcast in this Game of the Week segment. He told me oddly that when he played at Anthony Wayne, they also played at Fifth Third Field. And his senior year, they won and clinched the NLL title at Fifth Third Field. So interesting little nugget there. But for Findlay's keys to the game, he told me that they got to be gritty at the plate, throw strikes, and then make the routine plays. We talked about Bowser just not making those routine plays and then too many unearned runs. So when you're playing a team where both of these are going to be fundamentally sound teams because of the head coaches attached to them, and then Clay's coach, Jim Phillips, just told me they got to battle at the plate and then limit their own strikeouts. So they got to throw strikes when they're on the mound and then limit the strikeouts, avoid taking those called third strikes, and then limiting the walks when they're on the mound, limiting the free passes for the Findlay Trojans.
Yeah, tough back-to-back games if you are Findlay. They got Northview tonight, and then you go to Fifth Third, take on Clay tomorrow. So 2 of, hands down, the best teams in the area, 1 and 2 in Bruce Johnson's rankings, and 1 and 2 as far as seeding goes and rankings for the OHSAA. Back-to-back, really tough for them, but they've beaten Anthony Wayne. They've played a lot of teams really tough, so a lot to build on. A lot can happen on the baseball diamond. The lights at Fifth Third Field are going to be shining for our Game of the Week. Again, that's tomorrow night, 7 p.m., live on the BCSN app. Make sure you check it out. And it's a Thursday, so you know what that means. You can head to B-Dubs, get BOGO boneless wings while you watch it on the BCSN app. They're going to explain to you why right here after 30 seconds. We'll be back.
I've saved so much money enjoying Buffalo Wild Wings BOGO half-off Traditional Wing Tuesdays. I can finally afford everything I've ever wanted in life. Wings. All I ever wanted was more wings. So yeah, buy one, get one half-off Traditional Wings is the perfect deal for me and my lifetime yearnings. I value it more than literally anything. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
All right, we're through our Game of the Week, but we've got plenty more coming out on BCSN throughout the rest of the week. You see it up on the screen. High school softball, baseball. We've got college baseball. Oh, by the way, we've got so much going on. We don't even have space to fit Walleye playoffs up on that upcoming schedule. Walleye taking on Wheeling Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m. on BCSN. Make sure you head over to Danny's Cafe in Rossford. Catch the game over there. That's a 2-3-2 format for this Central Division Finals in the ECHL. Is there something up there real quick, Justin, that catches your eye as far as what's coming on BCSN?
With Perrysburg, avoid the spelling there. Whiteford, forgot your E. Sorry, apologies for that. But Perrysburg at Whiteford. Both top-tier teams in Ohio and Michigan. So Whiteford's been to the state finals the last couple years. Don't necessarily have the amount of talent that they've had those last 2 years, but still never count out Whiteford. Clay Findlay, we've already talked about that. Adrian, Eastern Michigan at UT, Western Michigan at BGSU. BGSU beat the Rockets in a non-conference game earlier this week. Shout out. Good job, Furnace. And then UT and BG. BG is going to go to the MAC tournament. UT just on the fringes. They gotta win some games, I think. And then that series against UT and BG, one of those games at Fifth Third Field live on the BCSN app, will be key to those final 6 slots in the Mid-American Conference tournament in Avon this year. And then Saturday, plenty of NCAA baseball and softball as well.
Plenty coming up to you on BCSN, the BCSN app, or the NLL network. And of course, like I said, walleye playoff action later this week. Make sure you're right here every single Wednesday, 4 p.m. for brand new episodes of the BCSN Nation podcast, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. If you're going audio format, make sure you hit the follow button at BCSN Sports across all platforms, at Justin Feldkamp on Twitter, at Adam Furness, at Carnes Brand. We're keeping it simple. It's just our names. But more than anything, follow at BCSN Sports anywhere you're going to go. And we'll see you right here next Wednesday for some softball action with 𝗦𝗫𝗀𝗏.